Okay, ladies and gentlemen, here is our second video, kind of continuing along with 3.1. This is the second part. We're going to be talking about the Plymouth colonies here. Okay. We had Jamestown being the first one in roughly 1607. While that's going on, being founded and things like that, there are some problems going on with these people that are called separatists over in England. Initially, these separatists, first of all, they don't like that King Henry VIII had kind of broken away from the Catholic Church and uh, formed his own church called the Anglican Church, where the king is the head of that church. They wanted to make reforms, kind of like Martin Luther did to the Catholic Church. So they were separatists. They didn't want to practice the Church of England. They were initially kicked out of England, sent to Holland or the Netherlands, but they were being persecuted there, treated badly, things like that in England and in Holland during the 1500s. So eventually they come back to England, but they're causing problems. The King of England at that time just wants to get rid of them. So he basically says, Here, I'll give you guys a ship called the Mayflower, or you guys can get on this Mayflower ship. It's heading to Jamestown. You guys can go there. You can live in the Jamestown or slash Virginia colony, set up your little camps there, do what you have to do. So the pilgrims, these people that are on a religious journey, they actually do get on the Mayflower. Now, there are some theories about what happened to the Mayflower. Initially, it was supposed to be going to Virginia. There's some stories that a storm blew it off course. There's other theories that the Pilgrims, once they got out to sea, actually technically mutinied, took over the ship, and steered it towards what we know of today as Massachusetts. They had known about this area. You have to know these pilgrims, they're Puritans, really, is what they are for their religion and stuff like that. They're very educated, they're very smart, they're very hardworking and stuff like that. But they did not want to go to Virginia because they knew once they landed in Virginia, they're going to have to follow the rules set forth by the charter of Virginia. And that means that they were still going to have to live under the rules of the king. And some of those rules could be having to practice the Church of England. So instead, they divert the ship north. It goes to what we know of today as Plymouth Rock. And that's where the Mayflower lands. Before they get off the boat, before they get off the Mayflower, there's like 41 men, most of them of these separatists or pilgrims, that are going to sign a document called the Mayflower Compact. Now, this Mayflower Compact was initially just to set up the rules that they're going to need for this new colony. Before they get off the boat, they want to make sure they have rules for this new colony. And we read a little bit about those rules in class. But it was really just to set up their own form of government, much like the House of Burgesses there in 1620. It was actually the first document in which American colonists are going to kind of claim this right to govern themselves, and that's kind of the most important part of the Mayflower Compact. Because first of all, women weren't going to be allowed to sign it. Of course, no Africans, Native Americans, children. You pretty much had to be a Puritan to sign this document or to be seen as even a citizen of this colony. Uh, so eventually they do get off the boat. They set up their own little colony known as Massachusetts Bay Colony at the time, and they have their own rules. Office holders, it says here, will be elected by the colony's adult males. They'll do just and equal laws. Well, if you're one of those groups that are seen as inferior, you're not going to really consider them just and equal and things like that. So that's kind of the first part there with the Mayflower Compact. And then, of course, you have the Pilgrims and their life, at least in that first year in the colony. Very, very difficult. Almost half, if not more than half of them, are going to die within the first winter from starvation or disease. And that's something we didn't talk too much yet in the first part about is the disease part, even for these people from England. You have to understand, especially down in Virginia, and we do talk a lot about how diseases affect the Native Americans, but disease is going to affect many of the English colonists in the Americas also because the environment is so much different. England is kind of cool and rainy most of the year, where you get down into Virginia and Jamestown, it gets very muggy, very hot weather. The English body, I guess the physical body, wasn't used to that type of environment. So really, it's going to exacerbate conditions for those that are weaker, maybe unhealthy. when they go to Jamestown and maybe even places around Plymouth Rock and others, they're going to be susceptible to a lot of diseases also. Malaria being the one that really devastates colonists. And as we know, yes, Native Americans are going to be wiped out based on diseases that the English will bring over. So I don't want to, I don't want you to think that the English colonists were suffering a disease on the same amount or same par as the Native Americans. Well, that's not true at all. Other reasons, they just don't have the supplies. They don't know how to live in this environment. But they're going to be helped out. The following year, conditions will improve. Maybe the weather actually improves. But more importantly, the Native American tribe that is located nearby is actually going to help them. The local chief here says gives them some food. Another Native American named Squanto. Now, Squanto is a very important character to the Pilgrims, Native Americans, and to the colonization. Squanto had been kidnapped previously by some English explorers that had come up through this area. Him and another Native American had been kidnapped, had learned English. They had actually gone back, I believe, to Europe for a couple years, but they escaped and they got back here to their tribe. Squanto is actually going to help these pilgrims survive. And one of the ways is Squanto is going to help them take the seeds from native plants and plant those things, such as corn, beans, pumpkins. He also shows them how to catch eels from nearby rivers, so the fishing process and things like that. Basically teaches these people how to live off the land. And that's going to sustain them for the next year. And it sustains them for the decades and the centuries that we are now here. Otherwise, who knows what would have happened if maybe these pilgrims had gone through another year of devastation. Perhaps there is no Plymouth Rock. Perhaps there is no Massachusetts. And you just don't know. It's that what if in history. But to give thanks, then the pilgrims are going to host a 3-day ceremony that we now celebrate, known as Thanksgiving. It really thank the Native Americans, so they set aside that day. They've lived through a full year. They're seeing their colony become successful, and then this actually leads to more colonization that is eventually going to happen in the Americas, which we will dive into here for section 2. Which is your homework. Now, we've got this 3.1 done. I want you guys to make sure you've got your notes filled out. Everything needs to be filled out on the notes. Then when you take those up to the substitute, she will verify that it's complete, and then you can take the quiz. You can use your notes for the quiz if you want to. Okay, so then when you are finished with it, I want you to turn both the notes and the quiz into the substitute. Then go ahead and read 3.2. We're probably going to do the same thing on Wednesday because I won't be here on Wednesday again. So I'll have a little video presentation, 3.2 notes, 3.2 quiz. We'll just kind of attack it the same way. May even do a little bit more than just 3.2. I might even go do a presentation of 3.3 on that day also. Don't forget to work on your Explorers debate also. I want to make sure you guys have that done because for you guys, we will start debating on Friday. On Wednesday, I will have on Schoology who you're going to be debating so that you can start looking up questions that you want to ask during that debate. As always, email me if you have any questions. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this presentation, and please do outstanding work, work hard, and have a great day, you guys. Thank you.